Bass is a term used to describe the tones created by low or deep frequencies, and is an important aspect of music that usually elicits a strong response from humans. Traditionally, bass is used as a pulse in music that keeps it moving along, acting as the glue for rhythmic and harmonic foundation. While bass has always been an important part of music, modern music genres, electronic dance music in particular, heavily emphasize the bass, bringing it to the forefront with deep sub-bass lines that are often felt rather than heard, often requiring huge subwoofers and audio equipment. In fact, bass is a whole unique culture of its own, with custom-built sound systems in the rave scene and giant trunk shakers and subwoofers in car audio. While this may seem like a fairly modern thing, the culture of heavy bass lines and huge sound systems can be traced back to an extremely important experimental music movement in the 60s that had a huge impact on the appreciation of bass within our culture, not only pushing low frequencies to the limit, but also pioneering new production techniques that helped to shape the sound of modern music, giving birth to remixing and various other important aspects of rave, DJing and dance music culture. Reggae is a Jamaican music genre that was born in the late 1960s that incorporates elements of rhythm and blues, jazz, mento, and African folk rhythms. The genre grew out of Jamaican ska and rocksteady music from the 60s, alongside Soundsystem culture, with an emphasis on offbeat rhythms and bass, staccato guitar, and piano chords, with deeply political and religious themes, as well as lighter subjects such as love, positivity, and ganja smoking. But what appeals to me most about reggae music is its little brother dub, a heavily experimental and rebellious subgenre of Jamaican music that emphasizes the already important bass and dynamics of its older brother, with extensive use of delay, echo, and various other effects that result in an extremely hypnotic and psychedelic sound. While dub may have originally been considered a subgenre, it has grown to extend beyond the scope of reggae, having a huge impact on the sound of modern music genres such as techno, ambient, hip-hop, and post-punk. But dub and sound system culture are most evident in the UK music scene, with dubstep, jungle, and D&B, which continue the tradition of heavy bass lines, echoes, rasta themes, and even Jamaican slang in the music. So what exactly is dub? Traditionally, dub is a term used to refer to copying one recording to another, or modifying audio and recording it to a new master, resulting in a doubling or dubbing of the material. But the term dub is not limited to sound manipulation, and has many other meanings in Jamaica. Some musicians, for example Bob Marley and the Wailers, would refer to dubbing as putting an emphasis on the bass and drums, while others define dub as an instrumental that captures the ghost of Jamaica's racist and violent history. Despite these various definitions, dub is most commonly used to refer to the style of remixing reggae songs to create stripped-back instrumental tracks that are generally drenched in reverb, delay, and other effects, with vocals from the original mix that drop in and out. As you can see, artists within the dub genre utilize the mixing board as an instrument, usually putting a lot of emphasis on the bass, playing around with space and shape to create distinct sound environments or soundscapes that feel organic and alive. In fact, while listening to dub, I feel like the echoes and delays are communicating with me, transporting me to a psychedelic realm of bass worship inside of my own body in a similar way that psytrance does. These techniques would later become staples in electronic music and help to shape the course of many of my favourite modern music genres, growing alongside the sound system culture pioneered in Jamaica. But before we can get into that, it's important to explore the roots of dub. Dub is heavily linked to sound system culture, a scene that first became popular in the 1940s as an affordable alternative to the live jazz scene in Jamaica. These sound system events usually played American rhythm and blues tracks and took the form of street parties with huge speakers, turntables and generators. But as time progressed, the sound began to change into a more local flavour and became big business, representing one of the few ways to make money in the unstable economy of Jamaica. Tom the Great Sebastian was an early Jamaican sound system owned by Tom Wong and was the first commercially successful sound system in Jamaica. Tom's system was built and engineered by Hedley Jones, a Jamaican inventor whose contributions to audio technology are greatly overlooked. After Tom's success in establishing the scene, Hedley began building systems for rival DJs. By the 50s, sound system culture had overtaken the popularity of live musicians, and the technology had progressed into loud systems capable of playing bass frequencies at 30,000 watts or more. These custom-built systems created competition within the scene, creating stars such as Clement Dodd and Duke Reid, whose Trojan sound system became the most popular within the scene. Sound systems were generally operated by a DJ and a selector, but the term DJ in Jamaica actually refers to a musician who sings or toasts, while the selector is the title given to the person who plays the music. An important part of the culture is the soundclash, a battle between two systems in an effort to prove which system is the best. These events would often turn violent, with one system destroying their opponent's equipment after the battle had commenced. As competition became fierce, the demand for new music became increasingly important and was one of the most important aspects of keeping the audience loyal, winning soundclash tournaments, and keeping the scene alive. As a result, sound system superstars turned to record production, creating rare and limited runs of records, aka dub plates. These dub plates were highly sought after, and system operators of the time were forced to hunt for the latest recorded music to stay relevant.
This is a dub plate. It's a blank acetate disc, 2 holes drilled in it. Now a dub plate is a reject master disc. For example, a 10-inch dub plate is a reject 7-inch master. So it might have a microscopic flaw, which once cut, the turntable stylus will ignore, but obviously it's no good for the manufacturing process. So the manufacturers of the acetate disc will drill a hole in it, and it's called a dub plate. This is the disc that we would use to cut a 12-inch master on. As you can see, there's already been some grooves cut in there. These are the test grooves that we would cut once we've mastered it to make sure that it sounds okay. The whole idea of a dub is having a track that no one else has got. As a DJ, if you choose your dubs properly, you can get a dub that will last, you get a year's life out of. But if you cut something that you know is going to be pressed in 2 weeks' time, well, what's the point in that? The majority of people who are going to listen to it in clubs. So that's why we cut it on vinyl. Vinyl sounds nice. We give it a nice EQ, we master it, make it sound as good as possible so that it sounds good in a club.
The tradition of dub plates is still alive today and is a big part of the UK dance scene, with DJs and producers pressing unreleased tracks on vinyl and playing them exclusively in their sets. One of the biggest names in the game was Rudy Redwood, a sound system operator whose relationship with record producer Duke Reid gave him an edge over the competition. Reid was able to supply Redwood with the latest and greatest records, which allowed him to dominate the scene. One day, at Reid's studio, Rudy's engineer Brian Smith made the mistake of leaving the vocal track out of a dub plate for the Paragons' hit On the Beach. But Redwood was pleasantly surprised and took the resulting instrumental to his next show. The track was a success and jump-started the trend of instrumental versions in the dancehall. Due to the popularity of these instrumentals, Duke Reid began to release the tracks commercially on the B-side of 45 singles. These instrumentals were known as versions and allowed new techniques to be used in Soundsystem events, including toasting, a style of singing or chanting that was a precursor for rap. Due to the relaxed copyright laws in Jamaica, producers began recycling audio recordings of particular instrumentals to cut costs and produce new tracks. This allowed for particular rhythms, or riddims, to become infamous within the scene, in the same way breaks are celebrated within jungle, hip-hop, and other music scenes. With all that out of the way, let's get started with dub. Dub as we know it was born in 1968 when Duke Reid employed sound engineer King Tubby to produce instrumental versions for the flip side of Jamaican 45s. Tubby initially worked to remove the vocal tracks using the faders on Reid's mixing desk to create instrumentals, but quickly discovered that various instrumental layers could be reworked, emphasized, and affected. Seeing the potential in these techniques, Tubby began to pioneer the sound of dub by putting a heavy emphasis on the drums, aka the riddim, as well as creating spacious arrangements and emphasizing the bass. Due to limitations in his equipment, Tubby was forced to think outside of the box, using his extensive knowledge of audio electronics to not only repair his gear, but also adapt and design new and unique effects units, specifically for dub music. His studio space was also extremely small and prevented him from recording musicians. As a result, he would re-tape or dub the original multi-track master tapes through his 12-channel custom-built mixing desk while affecting and recording the songs live, often utilizing his infamous high-pass filter. With Tubby's console being a 12-channel into 4-bus console, there was plenty of scope for individual instruments to be muted and for elements of the drum kit, such as the crucial snare or rim shot, to have their own channel. Each channel had a reverb send, which enabled reverb to be placed solely on individual elements without muddying the mix as a whole. A further tape machine was used to inject delay with feedback. Another one of his famous techniques was hitting a spring reverb with a stick to create echo chamber sounds and clangs, along with hard compression to create explosiveness. These effects quickly became famous in the scene and were used in track titles such as Dr. Satan's Echo Chamber and Flashing Echo. Some examples of Tubby's music includes Fittest of the Fittest Dub, Zion Gate Dub, and most importantly, Augustus Pablo, King Tubby meets Rockers Uptown. While Tubby wasn't a drinker or smoker, dub and sound system culture were a match made in heaven due to the ethereal and psychedelic qualities of the music that paired well with the cannabis culture of Jamaica. Tubby is not only celebrated for creating the blueprint for dub music, but also often credited as the inventor of remixing, as his production techniques not only changed the course of reggae, but also became the template for various styles of contemporary music. Tubby's career was tragically cut short on the 6th of February 1989, when he was shot and killed in Kingston when he was only 48. Since his death, many of Tubby's old records have surfaced and been reissued, and his music still lives on today, with producers such as Tricky, Madlib, Carl Craig, and Bill Laswell citing him as an inspiration. As Tubby's sound progressed, other producers started to catch on and become inspired. The notorious madman Jamaican music producer and inventor Lee Scratch Perry, aka The Upsetter, took note of Tubby's style and began to expand upon it in new and crazy ways, pushing the sounds of dub into a more psychedelic territory. Unlike Tubby, Perry was a big weed smoker and drinker, who also dabbled in psychedelic use. His music reflected this, as he took a much more abrasive and off-the-grid approach to the style. Perry was a truly unique character, and was known for his eccentric behaviours during production sessions. He would often blow cannabis smoke onto his tapes while recording, perform rituals with candles and incense, and spray urine, blood, whiskey, and other fluids onto his tapes to enhance their spiritual properties. These antics also made their way into his production techniques, reversing tapes and bouncing tracks with sound effects from crying babies, gunshots, broken glass, rain, sighs, and animal sounds. Perry was so crazy, he even buried microphones beneath palm trees and thumped them rhythmically to produce sounds. Despite his antics, Perry had a lot of precise control over his equipment and was able to destroy his competition with just a basic 4-track, as opposed to the 16-track mixing consoles that were standard in bigger studios. His innovative production techniques took place in the Black Ark, a studio he built in his backyard that he described as a living, breathing entity. The studio was a crazy place, and often filled with other musicians and people who would party and drink along with Perry. As the Black Ark and Perry's band The Upsetters grew in popularity, artists from across the country began to record with Perry, such as Max Romeo, Junior Mervyn, The Congos, Mighty Diamonds, The Heptones, Augustus Pablo, Jar Lion, and most notably Bob Marley, who Perry was able to build into the artist he is today. He has also worked with various international artists, such as The Clash and even Paul McCartney. Unfortunately, Perry's chronic alcoholism and drug abuse began to take a toll on his mental health, as well as the fact that many of the artists he had worked with had become highly respected and serious, leaving him in the shadows. To make matters worse, Perry's wife was fed up with his antics and lack of attention towards his family, that she left him, taking the kids with her. In a fit of rage, fueled by a severe mental breakdown, Perry torched the Black Ark, burning it to the ground. After this event, Perry struggled to find a path for his music, and wasn't really able to get back on his feet until the late 80s. He has since gone sober, and has had various documentaries made about him. Some of my favourite tracks by Perry include Kojak, Disco Devil, and Super Ape.
This is the
Various artists followed suit, such as Prince Jammy and Scientist, who was the first dub artist I ever came across. These artists helped to elevate dub into a viable art form, producing full-length instrumental dub albums that would gain huge success all around the world. But as the 80s rolled around, dub's popularity began to diminish, with digital reggae becoming the next big thing. Fortunately, dub had reached a new audience, catching on overseas, particularly in the UK. The culture of the sound system arrived in the UK with the mass immigration of Jamaicans in the 1960s and 70s. As a result, dub gained traction in Britain, with producers such as Mikey Dread, Mad Professor, and Shaka pushing the sound and exposing a new audience to sound system culture. As a result, many English post-punk bands were introduced to the sound of dub in the 80s and began using elements of the sound within their music. Some notable bands include The Police, The Clash, and UB40, who created the first dub album to hit the UK Top 40. While it seems like an unlikely match, punk and reggae artists were both able to find common ground, and both scenes formed a close connection. Post-disco artists from the US also began playing around with their sound, using dub techniques to create stripped-down remixes of their tracks, with accentuated beats that would appear on the B-side of the records. From the 80s moving forward, dub influenced and grew alongside various electronic music genres. One such genre was jungle, a genre derived from breakbeat hardcore that utilizes 808 bass lines, breakbeats, and samples. The genre borrows various elements of the dub sound, incorporating sound system culture, deep bass lines, simple melodies, and rasta vocals. Reggae beats, along with jungle and other UK genres, were popular amongst the underground scene and were played through Jamaican-style sound systems in warehouses, clubs, and street corners. Meanwhile, in Germany, techno producers Moritz von Oswald and Mark Arenestis formed Basic Channel and Rhythm and Sound. The duo took the delay effects popular in dub and applied them to techno to create dub techno, a style that is extremely subtle, ambient, and spacey, with an organic, soothing, and sparse atmosphere. Dub techno later gained exposure in the US with Rod Modell's deepchord project, and the subgenre is still one of the most important and popular styles within techno. It's also undeniable that dub and sound system culture had a huge impact on the development of hip-hop. This can be seen most evidently in the influence of Jamaican-born immigrant DJ Kool Herc, with his take on toasting that would later evolve into rapping, and his famous merry-go-round technique that isolated the breaks from records in the same way dub producers isolated the drum and bass. It's easy to draw parallels between things such as the soundclash and rap battles, or even sampling and the use of riddims within Jamaican music. In fact, the whole attitude of hip-hop borrows heavily from Jamaican culture. This can be seen in the competitive nature of both genres, appropriation of recorded material, and experimental use of technology such as turntables, samplers, delay effects, and mixing boards as instruments. Dubstep, a genre that mutated out of UK garage in the late 90s, is another style of music that echoes the sound of Jamaican music and fits perfectly within the sound system culture of the UK. While dubstep has changed a lot since its inception, Early traditional dubstep employs heavy bass wobbles, echoes, delay, and sparse production, which is very different from the sound of brostep that came in years later. Artists in the early dubstep scene also utilised dub plates and often used reggae samples and mixed dub tracks in their sets. As all things do, dubstep became commercialised and is usually thought of as the aggressive growly sound that Skrillex popularised in the early 10s, while OG dubstep is known for its more sedative, chill, and subdued character. Dub was also a precursor to trip-hop and acid jazz, and has played a vital role in the development of genres such as ambient and psytrance, with the use of dub delay and other effects which have become staples within each genre. Dub can quite easily be compared to music concrete, an early form of experimental music that utilised recorded audio, synthesizers, and digital signal recording. Both genres overlap with their use of tape-based techniques, such as splicing and speed manipulation, as well as the emphasis on appropriating and deconstructing their source material. When asked for recommendations, I think the best place to start with dub is probably Scientist, as his music is highly accessible and refined. My favourite albums by Scientist include Dub Landing, Heavyweight Champion, and Scientist Rids the World of the Evil Curse of the Vampires. I think it's also extremely important to check out Lee Perry and King Tubby. My recommendations include Super 8 by the Upsetters, which is Perry's band. I also really enjoy Revolution Dub. Dub from the Roots is probably Tubby's most famous project, and I highly recommend his work with Augustus Pablo. Also go check out some of the other dub pioneers and legends, such as King Jammy, Bunny Lee, Keith Hudson, Shaka, Mad Professor, Crucial Bunny, Mikey Dread, Errol Thompson, and the Channel 1 Posse. There are a whole lot more, so post your recommendations in the comments. It's also worth exploring the genres that grew out of the Soundsystem and dub influence, but I'll save that for another video. From its humble roots in the Soundsystem, bass has become a vital aspect of modern music, helping give rise to various genres that shake the dance floor and move the crowd. Not only has dub and Soundsystem culture pushed bass to the forefront, it has also given birth to new production techniques that have helped turn the mixing board into an instrument and producer into an artist. Without the efforts of innovators such as King Tubby and Lee Perry, genres such as jungle, dubstep, and techno may not be what they are today. While the dub scene is nowhere near as popular as it once was, it still lives on today with revival artists, sound system events, and musicians influenced by the sound. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments with any criticisms or feedback, as I'm always interested in learning more and improving. If you'd like to support this channel, I've recently made a Patreon, as I've been getting requests from a bunch of you guys. You can also support me by giving me video editing work, or just hitting me up on Insta or Twitter to talk about music culture or anything related. I'm always looking for new ideas. Until next time, thanks for watching and have a great day.